NF leaving the Christian hip-hop space came at a time where his success was at an all-time high. He had features with some of the biggest artists at the time, he won Christian music awards, and was platformed by Christian hip-hop outlets, but things started to change with NF. He stopped performing at Christian events, stopped collaborating with Christian artists, and distanced himself from the label of Christian rapper. His phase out of Christian hip-hop became evident to a lot of people.
And it's funny because I remember sitting with him last summer and him sharing with me, he goes, "Hey man, this is gonna be like my last Christian show." And he was like, "I'm just going full on into the clubs and things like that." You know, he's like, and I won't, you know, I'm not trying to like tell our whole conversation. He just was like, "This is my conviction. This is where I'm going. This is where I feel like, you know, things are going to happen."
This had mixed responses among Christian hip-hop fans who remembered Nate from when he first came into the scene.
My name is Nathan John Firestein. Stage name is NF, just my initials because my last name's so hard to say. And I really feel like God kind of like reached out to me through my music and was like, "Look, I've like given you this, you know, and taken things from your life." Because music is what I went to my whole life. Like when I had a problem, I'm not like a come and talk to you about all my issues in my life, you know what I mean? God is just takes my problems in my life, puts it in my music, and Christian rap kind of got a bad name at one point because it was so corny. But I feel like with Lecrae and a bunch of artists that in the past like 5-6 years have become really popular, it's taken a lot more serious now, you know?
Was he chasing after the money, or was there something more to it? His powerful testimony with the passing of his mother and his raw, emotional style connected with fans. Even for me, 7 years ago, I uploaded a video about how NF had helped me through my depression, and I'm sure many of you have a similar story. Although he started in the Christian hip-hop scene, NF felt that he needed to go another direction. In interviews, he went on to say, "In the Christian world, everyone wants to pretend everything is okay. It feels sometimes like the end of songs have to have this great positive ending, and I wasn't there. My music didn't fit because I didn't feel that way. It's not where I see myself today." Maybe if NF had came up in Christian hip-hop today, he would have had a different experience with artists like Jon Keith, What Up RG, and others not being afraid to share their lowest points. But this transition truly came into effect by 2017 with his album Perception and his smash hit Let You Down, which is currently 8 times platinum. Although many of his Christian base were cheering him on still, he was truly breaking through the mainstream, going on tour with Logic and getting shout outs from the likes of Shawn Mendes. YouTube reaction channels started to take notice of him, and his biggest music inspiration, Eminem, dissed him.
Especially in that thing recovery clone of me.
What an honor. All this happened within 2 to 3 years, and it left the Christian hip-hop community wondering what had happened to NF. Although his raw, intense real-life storytelling struck a chord with Christians and non-Christians alike, a sense of NF falling away from his faith was a real conversation in the community. NF's music became more secular, and mentions of God became ambiguous. What was at the forefront of his life and music at one point seemed to take a back seat for some fans.
But honestly, man, I feel like for the longest time I've been like I don't really like talk to God that much. Just over the past couple years, I probably realized it even more.
The critique, whether it was fair or not, played into the cliche of starting in the Christian or gospel music scene, building an audience, and then leaving to mainstream success.
He can rap really well. He makes cool music, okay? 2, he got to start in the Christian music industry. 3, he got to start in the Christian music industry to the point where he was at multiple Gospel Music Association Dove Awards. 4, in my opinion, in terms of someone that was used to placate to Christian conservative soccer moms using Facebook ads, which is a fact, okay? How do I know it's a fact? Because I know the guy who signed NF over at Capitol. I personally know people because I come from the music industry. Some of you guys don't know that. They marketed him to a predominantly Christian audience initially. It was brilliant in how they did it. They pushed it specifically to a Christian audience initially, springboarded it, and then he crossed over and somehow zapped all of you into thinking he's not a Christian artist. And maybe he's not. I don't know where he is with the Lord.
But I think what's important to understand, especially for newer fans of NF, is that the same raw emotional connection that Nate has with his fans today through songs like Let You Down, How Could You Leave Us, or Lie, Christians had the same connection with him when he was more explicit with his faith, and then they see this change in his content. NF's latest album, Hope, is a good turn in the right direction to those fans, and admittedly from NF himself, of going in a more positive direction. And following NF's departure from Christian hip-hop, debates have popped up with how artists are viewed and some hypocrisy when comparing the likes of Lecrae to NF.
Unless you're just putting your head in the sand, you understand that there's a double standard between artists like Cray and artists like NF in how people defend them, in how people well, nobody disparages NF, but like how they disparage artists like Cray, how they question them, how they tell them to stick to the gospel, how they tell them to you've lost your way, all this stuff. And that doesn't happen to somebody who literally distances as much as possible and will not be specific about the basics of our faith in anything, music, interviews, anything. Again, I have no problem with that approach, but there's clearly a hypocrisy.
NF's career, although rooted in Christian hip-hop, has vastly outgrown and moved away from the space. 90% of his audience discovered him after he left, and although he has themes of God in his music, it's definitely safe to say that he isn't a Christian rapper. But my hope for Nate would be that he's still walking with the Lord, because that's where I believe he'll find true hope. To find out more about what's going on in Christian hip-hop, watch this video.